Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Cougar, the Bitch, and the Wardrobe. I'm your host, Lana Mazer, also known as Curated by the Cougar. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And if you are already a listener, welcome back. It really means the world to me to have your support and your consistency with listening and coming back really helps the podcast grow. So I couldn't be here without you. So let's get started. Today's topic is 10 ways I can tell almost immediately if you're going to be a good friend or partner. And yes, there is a lot of overlap between finding a good partner. And when I say partner, if that's a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, life partner, whatever word you like to call it, and also a friend. Now, the thing is that I do want to preface this conversation by first saying that I am not psychic. That would be really cool if I were, but I'm not. I've just had a bit of experience in my 48, almost 49 years of life. And at this point, my red flag detector is FDA approved. So, again, please, after you've listened to the episode, if you have anything to share, comment, agree, disagree with, please DM me because I'm always curious to see, what resonates with my listeners, what doesn't, and really just to have a great conversation offline. So this episode is for people who keep saying, I didn't see it coming when actually you did. And then I just want to give a couple of disclaimers before we get started too, is that one red flag does not equal someone being a demon. We need to be fair with people and give them chances. But patterns equal prophecy. So let's get into it. Number one is how that person reacts to the word no before they're, invested. And again, like, what does that mean? Because no is a very powerful word and should be taken seriously. So, no, in a situation where you are dating someone and perhaps there is a level of intimacy that you are not quite ready for, are not comfortable with it, whatever it is, that's for you. You are entitled to that. So whatever that no is no. It's as simple as that. And if you find that that person that you are dating with is trying to pressure you, make you feel bad, whatever it is, then that is a major red flag waving in your face. I also think that it can be something very, very simple. And I talked about this on a previous episode, is that even if it's something as simple as, no, I don't want to have a drink tonight. That's it. You don't owe anyone an explanation. And as I said in a previous episode, maybe you're a recovering alcoholic. You've had some issues with addiction. Maybe you just have found that as you've gotten older, alcohol no longer agrees with you. Maybe you are training for high rocks. Whatever it is, no is no. And if someone cannot take your no as gospel, then it's time to bye-bye. Same thing with friends. So again, the no needs to be respected. And that also can present itself in a multitude of different ways with friendship. But again, equally with someone you're dating, with a friend, if no is the answer, you need to stand your ground. Don't let someone try to bully you. If you're uncomfortable with something, then you're entitled to that feeling. Number two, does this person make you feel special or selected? So, when we get into that with dating, again, these terms get thrown around a lot, like love bombing, but it is something to pay close attention to because as human beings, we do like someone to pay us a compliment. We want the attention of someone, but we want it when it's authentic and genuine, right? So, in this situation with dating, be aware of that person that says, I've never felt this way before. Now, of course, that sounds utterly romantic, but to me, it's really utter garbage. And again, look, I am a romantic person, but you have to just be very careful with the language, how it's being used. Is this person saying this to you because you haven't yet been intimate with that person and they're trying to get you into bed? You just really have to think about that. And again, the same thing with friendship. There are friendships where you can feel love bombed by someone. And so again, is it because, you are actually that friend, that person, like a best friend, or is it just you've been selected for some reason? Is that person, that friend, trying to get something from you, trying to get to someone through you? Maybe it benefits that person to be seen in the same social circles as you. And I mean, I have a story that I can tell, and this goes back many years now, but I remember when I was living in the city, I hadn't yet met my second husband, and I became friends with a woman that I met like in a gym. And right away, like she came on really, really strong, not in a sexual way, but very much like wanting my attention, wanting me to go out with her all the time. And at the time, I was open to it. I was in graduate school and I was studying a lot. And I had just had a boyfriend and I had broken up and I was really heartbroken about it. And so it was, in a way, good for me because she was getting me to go out all the time. And I think at that point in my life, I needed that. But ultimately, that friendship ended because she was in real estate. And I think that she befriended me. I don't want to say that there wasn't anything to the friendship, but then eventually I think I realized that she saw me as a potential client and wanted to sell me an apartment. And then when the day came that I was going to buy an apartment with my ex husband, and her expectation was then that she was going to be my realtor. And I felt very uncomfortable with that because I really wanted to separate the friendship from the business. And we were going to be disclosing a lot of very personal financial information that I didn't really want it to be public knowledge. And I also felt that way because I remember her sharing private information about her clients with me. So that made me a little bit nervous. So very kindly, I said to her when the time was right, I said, look, I value our friendship. This has nothing to do with how I see you as a professional, because I had actually referred people to her as clients. But I said, look, like, I really don't feel comfortable. I don't want to disclose certain information of my exes, of mine. And I really just want to keep this as a friendship. And then I never heard from her ever again. So again, let's try to be more aware of those things going forward, because our time is precious. And whether it's with a friend or partner, it's very much the same thing. And those precautions are appropriate in either scenario. And I do want to add to that there is a big difference between intensity without consistency. And that's also something to be really aware of, especially in dating situations, is that these little snippets where you spend time with someone and they love bomb you, but then it's not consistent where it needs to show up. That's that's a red flag. Okay, number 3, how people talk, how they talk about people who loved them and people who are no longer useful to them. So, and this one exposes character fast. So again, like, we've talked about this too, in different ways on the podcast in the past, is that, in the context of the podcast, I have shared information about my relationship with um, both of my ex-husbands. And it's more in this context because I'm trying to utilize my own experiences to perhaps be helpful. And for my own healing, it has been really helpful to talk things out and learn from my experiences and hopefully help someone else who's going through something similar, and maybe save someone some heartbreak if if my stories resonate with them. So that's a separate context here than you're dating someone, you're on a first date, and we don't want to literally have diarrhea of the mouth about our exes. And that's also something to pay attention to with the other person, is you barely know each other and already that person is telling you how horrible their ex is. And I think that that's something obviously that can come later on if there is a lot of trust that has been established and you feel comfortable now sharing this information with this person. But that's a red flag if you barely know someone and they're already telling you all this really horrible stuff about their ex. You also don't want to do the same. So I think that's a big red flag and something that needs to be you need to pay attention to that. Same thing with former best friends. If you have a friend and they are constantly talking smack about a former friend. Again, like, I think that that's a red flag. We've all gone through those experiences where we've been burned by someone, a friend, and of course, that's naturally going to come up in conversation with someone that you're close with, a close friend. But if that's constantly being brought up and that person keeps on talking about that person and putting them down, and that to me, that doesn't seem right. That seems off to me. And that to me is also a red flag. Because I also think, in addition to that, if that information is constantly like still at the forefront of their mind, then they have not healed from that. Now, I myself had a situation a few years ago where I had a business with a former friend of mine, and that business fell apart. I found out that she stole money from the business. She was extremely dishonest. She was sending me harassing text messages. So this person really, I mean, it was a horrible experience, and I was somewhat traumatized from it. Now, anybody who is a close friend of mine knows about this experience, but it's not something that I talk about on a daily basis. Quite honestly, I don't want to talk about it because it was a horrible experience, and it's not something that I want to like relive every day. So that's kind of what I think about when someone is constantly talking smack about a former friend. Like, why? Like, why are we still talking about this today? So that's something to keep in mind. And again, it there's there are those people where everybody else is at fault. The coworker, the friends from before, family that they're done with, their exes. Again, that person, if everyone they talk about, everyone else is crazy, everyone else is jealous, everyone else is toxic, everyone else is holding them back. Um, again, we need to pay attention to that. Like that person is seeking attention, seeking status, validation. Again, these same things can show up in a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend. But again, it's I've seen it very much in friendships. So I think that um, these are patterns to clock, and an understanding is that person taking zero accountability. Now, of course, there's exceptions to the rule. There are situations that unfortunately you deal with someone who's really toxic, or you deal with someone who's a thief like I did. I mean, I didn't have anything to do to do with that. But again, paying attention to things where history is always rewritten, so they're always the hero. That's also something to pay attention to. And how someone exits relationships tells you more than how they enter them. So again, like always being on the defensive, always looking for a fight. I'm at this stage in my life where again, it's like a lot of and I it resonates a lot with me. Like this past year was the year of the snake. I was born in 1977, which was the year of the snake. So for me, like that represents like a lot of shedding. And for me, some friendships have come to an end this year, but I'm not looking to like, all right, I got to teach this person a lesson and I got to really show them what a piece of shit they were to me. No, like, I don't need to explain. I will quietly exit. I mean, unless they come to me and they really want to have a conversation about it, I will politely and respectfully tell them how I'm feeling, but I don't want to come from a place of aggression, because I mean, who really has time for that? I certainly don't. And even in situations with where like a situationship has come to an end, like sometimes those things just need to quietly end, and when they do, I don't need to step back into the ring and be like, this is what you did, this is how you made me feel, I think you did this, I think you did that. No, like, this isn't working for me anymore, like I'm going to walk away. And sometimes the quiet exit is really all you need. Number 4 is that person's relationship with boredom. Can they sit? Can they be alone? Can they exist without stimulation, without drama, without validation, are they that someone who really thrives off of the drama? Those are not my people. So, and again, that presents itself with men and with women in with a love interest and in a friendship. Some people create problems, create triangles, create chaos, and they thrive off of that. It's like they get re-energized by that. Whereas like for me, I get drained by that. So that's something to pay attention to in either a relationship with a partner or with a friend. If you feel drained and exhausted by that person because they're constantly seeking validation, wherever they go, drama follows and chaos follows them, then we really have to consider that person's involvement in creating that chaos and creating that drama. And, and again, I think it's important to also realize that some people don't necessarily want connection, they want distraction. So they might be really unhappy in their own lives. Maybe there's something going on at home with a partner, with their husband, with their wife, and so they're seeking chaos and validation outside. So they want that distraction. Maybe you have a friend like that. Think about that. Um, it's exhausting, and you don't want to be that person's emotional dumping ground. Number 5 is how fast they want access to you. So that could be access to your time, access to your body. We talked about emotional labor a week ago, how quickly they want access to that. A lot of people want access to your energy. Are they sucking your energy because they need energy for themselves, so they're coming to you for your energy? Again, if that person is rushing intimacy, that does not equal closeness. When someone wants everything immediately, access is earned. It's not granted because you're charming. And I know we've all had some experience with that. So again, in friendships, in a love interest situation, how fast do they want access to you? And that's really something to pay attention to. Number 6, what happens when you slightly disappoint them? Maybe you take longer to respond. Maybe you say you're busy. Maybe you are busy. Maybe you cancel plans once. You need to watch for, is this person guilt tripping you? Are they like literally going through withdrawal, like a drug withdrawal? Are they being passive aggressive with you? Healthy people don't punish you for being human. And, we're all busy individuals. We have things going on, things come up, things get in the way. I'm guilty of it where a friend will text me and I saw the text message and I meant to respond and I didn't. And then I'm like, oh my God, you know, 3 days went by and I write back, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to, like, I meant to write you back. I totally forgot. I'm sorry. It happens to me, it just happened to me today with one of my good friends. Like, she was like, oh my God, I thought I responded to you. I forgot to, I'm so sorry. And I get it. I get it. It happens, but it's really interesting when someone really wants to guilt you into why. Like, I had this friend who I've had issues with and continue to have some issues with, and I'm trying to create some space and boundaries there because she'll like guilt me into like, why haven't we seen each other? Or like, how come we haven't made plans? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, you also are not coming to me to say, Hey, Lana, what are you doing Friday night? I'd really like to make plans with you. So don't try to make me feel bad. Like she said to me, are you mad at me? You know, like I feel like you're not like she was kind of trying to say that I was giving her the cold shoulder, which I mean, now that I'm saying it out loud, I mean, maybe there is some truth to it, but I guess it's more about like the way that it's being communicated is more about that without like trying to make someone feel guilty and being passive aggressive. I think that's more about the way that it was delivered to me that I was just like, whoa, you're being a little too passive aggressive for me. Not even passive, just aggressive. So again, I think that there's something to be said about that. And again, like, life is filled with joys and life is filled with disappointments as well. And so, especially when you're in a situation, a relationship like a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, life partner, whatever, you really have to see how that person responds to situations where maybe you don't do or say exactly what that person wants? And are they able to express it in a way like, listen, this happened, this made me feel like X, and I just wanted to express it? Or do they just get really angry and passive aggressive and try to put you down? And so, again, like, I think it's really important to pay attention to that like as an ongoing thing because we don't always say or do the right things, and of course like we want to do right by the people that we love and care about, but again we are not mind readers, and unless someone expresses to us in a kind way that look, this made me feel bad and I want you to know. Okay, okay, great. So now let's try to fix that going forward on both sides of the relationship. So again, like I think that really shows who someone is long term, and also being able to take constructive criticism, or not even, I hate using the word criticism, but just trying to give constructive feedback, let's say, and not get so oh my god, what's the word that I'm looking for? Defensive. Not getting so defensive, but rather, okay, I'm going to sit with what you just said to me. Let me think about it. Let me process it without getting defensive and mean. And I always felt in my marriage with my ex-husband, and things still happen today when I try to give him feedback about something, he cannot take it. And so it really creates a major communication issue. So, and we're not even married anymore, but we're co parenting. So I think that that's something to really um, pay attention to. Number seven, do you feel um, expanded or monitored? So, what do I mean by that? Do you feel like you have to explain yourself constantly? Do you always feel like you're being like subtly watched and judged? You're you They make you feel like you're performing this best version of yourself. And I said this last week, I think in the last episode, about like it's almost like we're auditioning for this role, like we feel like an actor auditioning for a role. Maybe we're auditioning for the role of boyfriend, or we're auditioning the role of girlfriend, or we're auditioning for the role of friend, but it doesn't feel authentic, and it doesn't feel, yeah, like we're not being our authentic selves, because we feel like if we are, that person is going to give us those little subtle jabs, and and it really always makes us question ourselves, like, does this person really value me as a life partner? Does this person really value me as a friend? So again, that's another one that I have really thought a lot about. over the years in relationships and in friendships. Number 8, how they handle power shifts. You succeed, you glow up, you got things going on. Maybe, friendships can be cyclical. You spend a lot of time together, then you don't. Then you spend a lot of time together, then you don't. Can that person roll with that? Same with your partner. Can they celebrate your wins? Can they be can they be there for you when you feel like crap? Um just watch for like weird jokes, minimizing your feelings, like all of a sudden, like they're suddenly concerned. Um, again, there's that old saying, like, misery loves company. So are they trying to sort of bring you into the pit of despair with them? And they're giving you all this like really crappy advice that like you would never give someone. So I think that that's important. Like I felt um that recently too because I had this like situationship that I had going on and off for the last like year, which now is finally over. But like I had this friend of mine who was like kind of like encouraging me to like reach out to him and you know yeah, like reach out to him and continue with him even though I was not feeling great in that situationship. And all my other friends were like, Lana, no, like this person doesn't deserve you. Like you're going, like there's obviously the high and the excitement of like being with that someone, but then there's like the lows because he's not giving you what you desire in a relationship in terms of like the emotional side and friendship and all that stuff. But yet she was like constantly encouraging me. And she would always like, I would talk to her on the phone and she'd be like, oh, did you hear from so and so? Like, and I'm like, why are you asking me this? Where like all my other friends would like, don't say his name's Lana because like it's true. Like, why? And but she would be like, did you hear from him? Like, why are you asking me this? Like, you want me to be like, well, no, like, or yes, I heard from him. Like, I didn't really know like what she wanted. And then I realized, like, in her own personal life, like, she's in this horrible relationship for the last like 7 or 8 years with a guy who's like emotionally abusive. And so, again, it's like misery loves company. So just be aware of that. Number 9, their emotional hygiene. And I feel like this is underrated and under discussed, yet very critical. So, do they process emotions or like leak them everywhere? It's like, like do they pee a little bit on the floor everywhere? Are they venting versus dumping? Is it self awareness or is it self indulgence? And again, like I've said this before, like you can't be someone's emotional dumping ground or someone's emotional landfill. We all go through hard times and we want to be there for the people we love and cherish when they're going through a hard time, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a person that we're in a relationship with. But there is a very clear line where it becomes that person is constantly dumping their shit on you all the time and it's not a two-way street. They are constantly in this state of like it's like they're always in this state of fight or flight and there's never it's never them saying to you, well, what's going on with you? Like, oh, Lana, I hear that your podcast is doing really well. Like, can you tell me more about it? Like I feel like I have those friends where I'm with them and it's all about them all the time. And they never ask me anything. And so again, this is where I then retreat and I'm like, this is too much for me. I need to create a boundary here because this is exhausting. And look, like if it's something that's real, sure. And I'm not saying that what they're going through isn't real, but then it becomes like, the boy who cried wolf. And then I can't tell anymore what is actually really distressful to them and what's not. And number 10 is that your nervous system is never wrong. And I've talked about this in previous episodes that just because there's a sense of calm, that doesn't equal boring. If because there's anxiety, that does not equal chemistry. And because you have butterflies when you see that person, it does not mean that they are your soulmate and you're fated to be together. Your body always responds before your brain. Our brains will try to talk us into and out of anything. But if you feel tightness in your chest or that feeling of like you're walking on eggshells, that before you see that person, you feel really anxious, or afterwards, after you spend time with that person, you feel anxious, that is a clear message from your nervous system that this person is not right for you. Because even with the excitement of being with a partner and you're dating and you get these butterflies in your stomach when they call you or text you, and then you know that you're going to see them, and then it's really exciting and the sex is really good. But then after all of that heightened emotion passes, if you feel really emotionally drained and anxious, pay attention to that because our nervous system is never, never wrong. And so those are my top 10, but I also want to give my honorable mentions here. Is that how does this person react when you're sick, when you're tired, or unavailable? How do they handle not being the smartest, the most attractive, or the funniest in the room? Whether they listen or understand how they respond to you. Does their kindness disappear when convenience does? So, what I want to leave my listeners with today is compatibility isn't rare. Emotional maturity is. You don't need more chances or to give that person more chances. You need better standards. So I want my listeners today to reflect. Who did you ignore your body about? What signals were your body giving you? And were you ignoring those signals? Who was that person? And the the right people feel like relief, not homework. So please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube at Curated by the Cougar. I would love to hear what you have to say about today's podcast. You can find the podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, The Cougar, The Bitch, and the Wardrobe. And until next time.